जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदन व्रज रंजन यामुनतीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदन व्रज रंजन यामुनतीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदन व्रज रंजन यामुनतीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद हरिनाम संकीर्तन महायज्ञ की जय श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय निताय गौतम। Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanathmirandasya Gnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Swapanantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Patakamanam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Shri Guru Sadvaitam Savadutam Harijanasetam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Ravita Shri Shatanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Bhakta Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kantana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Welcome everybody to Saturday afternoon satsang. Anybody remembers what we discussed last week? Anybody wants to share? I hope everybody is taking some points down. Otherwise, we'll forget everything what we hear.
Okay. If nobody is speaking, I can summarize.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So we discussed, Prabhu, that Krishna doesn't bring misfortune to the world, right? Because there was a purport explaining that we think that when unfortunate situation happens, we think that, oh, this is an unfortunate situation, but Krishna doesn't bring unfortune to anyone. As Arjuna was thinking that why are you why do you want this misfortune to come to me, right? So just Prabhupada clarifies that there is no misfortune from Krishna's side. Then there's the difference between peace of mind and
Happiness.
yeah, peace of mind and happiness. And peace of mind is basically neutral state, where happiness is a positive state. And happiness is in three modes, right? We have goodness, happiness in goodness, passion, and ignorance. And we also
And also transcendental happiness.
yeah. Above that, there is a transcendental happiness. Then we discussed how elders are responsible for protecting the traditions and, especially protecting. And if elders die, there is nobody to take care of women. And Arjuna was actually bringing these points, which were very logical, and Prabhupada explains that. And we also,
Prabhu, I'm muting you, please. There's some disturbance.
then we also discussed that how Britishers basically, they killed the tradition of India and very systematically. And Arjuna was the same, that women are not protected and the family traditions are destroyed, right? The whole progeny, it is basically Varna Shankara, right? And then we also discussed that how the habits of women, right, and especially the people, like this, they have the bar at home, and the dressing sense has changed. We give an example where people were actually taking pride in wearing dhoti, but now it is slowly diminishing. And especially we discussed the point where mothers, the abortion was never heard of earlier, and now women, the mothers actually don't feel any pain, or as if it's natural to just kill children in the womb, right, in the form of abortion. So we discussed all these points. Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, we also discussed how family welfare is not only about material welfare, but a mother or a father is also responsible for spiritual welfare of the child. And you must ensure that the Atma that came into our family does not have to take birth again.
Okay, very nice. Anybody else? Yeah. I think a lot of interesting, important points.
Bijakshara mantra. You told about bead and also Hare Krishna chanting.
Yes.
Do that.
Yes. So that is a Taraka Brahmanama. Yeah. Yes, bro. Taraka Brahma Nama for Kali Yuga is the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So that is actually it is the solution for all problems in Kali Yuga. We'll talk about it more as we go along. So today we're going to start second chapter. Now second chapter is where Krishna actually starts his instructions. Now, in sometimes we expect saying that sadhus have to be very nice. They should speak very nicely, right? I mean, if you go see somebody who's looking like a sadhu and that person is speaking harsh words, then we think, what is this? No, this is not how a sadhu is. Now we'll see the greatest of origin of all sadhus, Krishna. We'll see how he starts responding to Arjuna. Arjuna has been going on right now for almost the whole of first chapter. His own reasons why he should not be fighting, compassion, enjoyment, sinful reactions, then family traditions, society, everything will get destroyed. So Arjuna is saying, I don't think I should fight, considering all the intelligence I have. And he knows that the intelligence has been given by Krishna, but saying, okay, all the analysis, Vedas, look at everything, no, it's not making any sense for me to fight. Right? So now he continues that same argument into the second chapter, and then Krishna starts speaking. Now, even before that, before Krishna starts speaking, there are a few beautiful verses which are setting the context for who Krishna is. Right? This is the beauty of Bhagavad Gita and how Sanjaya is introducing Krishna right into the picture. So we're going to start with verse 1, 2.1. Sanjaya uvacha tam tatha kripaya vishtam ashru purna kulekshanam vishidantam idam vakyam uvacha madhudanaha. Sanjaya said, seeing Arjuna full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears, Madhusudana, Krishna, spoke the following words. So Krishna is going to start speaking. Now before that, Sanjaya is saying that Arjuna was full of compassion. His mind was depressed and his eyes was full of tears. Now we should remember, right? So he was completely his whole problem was that he had to kill his own relatives. He had to fight against his own relatives. Right, so he had developed what we call material compassion. So we're going to talk about two types of compassion. Okay, there is one which is material compassion, and then there is spiritual compassion. Now, most of our experiences in material world is material compassion. So material compassion means what? Means like somebody is like we discussed, right? If somebody is hungry and they're begging, then we give them something, right? We give them money, we give them food, we give them something, right? This is material compassion. This is restricted to the material body, and it takes care of the requirements of the material body. Now Arjuna was on the material platform. He was lamenting, saying that this, I'm not supposed to be killing my own relatives, friends, guru, etc. So he was completely absorbed in material compassion. Right now, in the purport, Prabhupada actually starts the introduction. So the second chapter introduces who we really are, that we are not this body. And Prabhupada in the purport makes some very powerful statement, setting the context for us, for the rest of the chapter. So he says, material compassion, lamentation, and tears are all signs of ignorance of the real self. Reading that again. Material compassion, lamentation, and tears are all signs of ignorance of the real self. Which means what? Actually, if we are ignorant about who we really are is what is going to be talked about by Krishna very soon. So Prabhupada is saying, okay, because we are the spirit soul, we are the Atma, material compassion, lamentation, and tears are all signs of ignorance of real self. Why? Because the self is eternal, right? So we're going to talk about this in the rest of the chapter. So since the self is eternal, now what is the need for actually compassion for the material body, right? Because the material body is there today and the material body will perish, right, soon. So what is the need for this material compassion? What is the need for this material lamentation? I mean, so we're all generally, I mean, emotions means that we are on the material platform. We cry for others when others are in trouble. right? So material compassion, lamentation and tears are all signs of ignorance of the real self, because it is not looking at the self, it is actually looking at the body of that other person, and we are expressing these emotions. Now Prabhupada gives the real definition of compassion. Okay, please hear very carefully. Compassion for the eternal soul is self-realization. This is such a powerful point. Okay. Now he also says compassion for the dress of a drowning man is senseless. One who does not know this and laments for the outward dress is called a Shudra, or one who laments unnecessarily. Now just look at this statement. Compassion for the dress of a drowning man is senseless, obviously, right? So if somebody is drowning, now you're not going to go and protect just save the dress. What is the use of saving the dress of a drowning man? It's useless, right? Because the person who's drowning has to be lifted. If you just lift the dress, now it's really of no use to that person, because the person is going to drown. So Prabhupada is saying that this body is like our dress, right? So what is the use of just uplifting the body of a person, right? And he's saying compassion for the eternal soul is self-realization. That means that if we really want to show compassion to somebody, then we should show it on the platform of self-realization. That means that we should act on the platform of Atma, not on the platform of body. On the platform of body, we only connect to the body and the bodily problems and sufferings and all that. But if we are the Atma, like I was saying the other day, if suppose say somebody is begging at the traffic light, then material compassion means what? Giving them some money, giving them some, maybe ordinary food to eat, etc. That is all on the material platform. But if we have real compassion for that soul, if we are really interested in that person's welfare, then we give them either prasadam, we invite them to the temple, right? We do something which is going to enable them to revive their real, their eternal position, right? Or it will help them realize who they really are, that they are not this body, that they are spirit soul. So real compassion. So if you want to help somebody, right? Like the other day I was discussing, some relative of mine, they were in distress and, something health problem, something. And I was just telling them saying that, chant. But they're saying, no. Once the problem gets over, I'm going to chant. I said, problem will never get over. One problem will come, another problem, one problem will go, another problem will come. But really, I mean, if you want to get over, if you want to get control over yourself, you have to chant. If you don't chant and wait for some very good situation for me to start chanting, that's not going to happen in this material world. As in, maybe like temporarily we might get out of some difficulty, and but it's dukhalayam ashashvatam. It's a never ending, right? It's temporary, but it's full of dukha, right? So we can't wait for any conducive situation environment for us to start chanting. So, but this is real compassion. Real compassion means that we give the process of bhakti to a person. We tell them who they really are. We tell them what their constitutional position is, what they should be doing, right? Which is the process of bhakti. Now, when we actually start, of course, I mean, we are not saying that, somebody is hungry, then, let that person remain hungry and you talk about chanting. No, obviously, if somebody is hungry, they need to be given food, but don't give ordinary food. Right, because that ordinary food is going to result in further suffering, because that ordinary, we're going to discuss this in the third chapter. Ordinary food is actually sin only, right? And when we eat that, it's going to result in more suffering. So instead of that, we should give them Krishna prasadam, right? Or we should bring them to the temple, or we should give them food, we should give them chanting, we should give them all that actually helps them as eternal spirit soul and not as a body. So we should always remember this example, right? So once there was a beautiful king, very rich king. He got a big, beautiful golden cage, and then also inside he kept a very beautiful, colorful, very nice looking, pretty, bird, right? And he gave it to his servants, and he said, "Please take care of this cage." Now, obviously, when the servants heard, "Please take care of the cage," now they understood the way they understood, and then what they do, they made all arrangements. Every day they are getting some, nice or whatever, right? Some oil, this, that, polish, and they are polishing the cage every day. It's shining, and it's even looks even better than when the king had given them, and they're so happy. that they've done a very good job about this, taking care of the cage. And after a few days, the king comes back. King comes back and says, okay, get me the cage. Hope you've taken good care of the cage. Yes, then, they get the cage, and then, but the king doesn't see the bird. He says, what happened? Where is the bird? Then, no, the servants are saying, Maharaj, you first see the cage, so beautiful. See how nicely we have maintained it, polished it every day. The king is saying, Arey, where is the bird? The cage was supposed to be there, nicely managed for the bird. So then the servants say, oh, Maharaj, actually, we were so engaged in taking care of this cage. Actually, we forgot to feed the bird, and the bird died. Right? And the king was saying, are you so foolish? As in, why would I just want to maintain the cage without bothering about the bird? So this is how we are. This is how this whole material world is. We are just living for the cage. We're just taking care of the cage, this whole body. We're just taking care of it, day in and day out. We want this, we take care of it in multiple ways, how, right? But we never bother about the bird inside the cage. So compassion means bothering about the bird inside the cage and not just the cage, because that we have been doing. And many people ask why ISKCON doesn't do this social work. We say this is the greatest social work, because there are so many other institutions to do, go and do food, give shelter. There are others, they do their job. We do our job. Our job is what? Krishna is giving whatever Krishna gave to Arjuna, saying that, hey, Baba, don't forget, you're not the body, you're spirit, soul. That is the social welfare work that we are doing, right? So we should remember that we should not forget that we are eternal spirit souls. So this is the beginning, ABCD of spiritual knowledge, right? And this is another very important thing, the realization of self. So if anybody wants self-realization, now please hear the secret. How we are going to become self-realized is possible only when one works without attachment to fruitive results and is situated in the fixed conception of real self. So I'm going to repeat this statement again. Realization of self is possible when one works without attachment to fruitive results. Now, what is fruitive results? Fruitive results means that we do some work and we want some sense gratification out of it, right? So I'm doing something so that I get some benefit out of it, so that, my senses become happy, I become materially happy. This is fruitive result, right? Now, here Prabhupada is saying that one should work without attachment to fruitive result. That means that we do some work, but we should not be bothered about the result. Bothered as in we will put the effort to do that, but if it doesn't come, we are not like, oh, what is this? I'm not going to do this again, or I'm not going to do work at all. Not like that. So we should not have attachment to any fruitive result. That is the first criteria. And the second criteria is we should remain fixed in the conception of real self. Fixed in the conception of real self means that we should be practicing the the bhakti process, which is ABCD, right? Association, reading books, which is Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, chanting, and having Krishna Prasadam. This ABCD we should do every day, and we should not have attachment to fruitive results. Then we can actually achieve self-realization. This is the secret, right? Because there are so many institutions, actually, they say, yeah, you read Bhagavad Gita, you do whatever you want. Now, if you do whatever we want, we are not going to become self-realized. See, if somebody saying that, like you drink, but nothing is going to happen. As in, you drink alcohol, but it's okay. You do whatever else. Now, how can it happen? I mean, when you drink alcohol, then your consciousness is gone. You don't have control over yourself. So similarly, if you do whatever we want, we can't become self-realized. We can't say that, I want to go to Bombay, but I'm going to take a ticket to Delhi. How can we go to Bombay if we take a ticket to Delhi? Right? So similarly, we should be very, very clear, saying that if we want self-realization, there is a process. It has to be followed. It cannot just happen just, one fine day we just wake up and we are self-realized. No. If somebody has to lose weight, I mean, that person has to work out, right? It can't be that suddenly, all of a sudden, one fine day we wake up in the morning, look at ourselves, and then, oh, 5 kilos gone. That's not going to happen, right? So if we want to be self-realized, if we want to understand who we really are, then we need to follow the process of self-realization, right? Which is the process of ABCD, right? And of course, as we do that also, Krishna will talk about this in second chapter, 47th verse, that we should also not be too attached to the results of our work. So these are two pre-criteria. right? Which we should keep in mind when we, we are now, just so whether if you didn't already realize, we are on the path of self-realization, right? Bhagavad Gita is the path of self-realization. And if we want to understand it and want to perfect our life, in the clear conception of self, clear conception of who we really are, then we should do these things, right? Do ABCD, and also don't be too attached to the results of your work. So this is prerequisite. Now, the introduction to Krishna is coming in the next verse. So beautiful verse this is. I'm going to read the next verse. Yeah, Shri Bhagavan Vacha Kutastva Kashmalamidam Vishame Samupastitam Anaryajushtam Asvargyam Akirtim Karam Arjuna. No, Krishna is almost scolding Arjuna. So he's saying, so okay, here the word Bhagavan Vacha. So Krishna is speaking and he is called Bhagavan. So Bhagavan, we will explain what Bhagavan is technically. And he's saying, my dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? They're not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planets but to infamy. So Krishna is almost like, berating Arjuna, saying, why are you speaking like this? I mean, you are supposed to be knowing all this knowledge. Why are you speaking like this? Why are you acting like this? They are not befitting one who knows the value of life, because Kshatriyas, previously everybody used to know the value of life, right? Value of life means, what is this life for? What are we supposed to do? Don't live like animals, be responsible. This is value of life, right? Human life, basically. He's saying it is not befitting a man who knows the value of life. You know that you're not the body. Then why are you talking like this, right? Krishna is scolding Arjuna. Now, here, so the introduction of the word Bhagavan, right? So if we ask, somebody saying that who is God? Now, God is a very vague word. It's an English word, right? God is an English word. It's very vague. It doesn't very clearly define who he is, right? So our Shastra defines it very clearly, right? That is why Prabhupada used to say, saying that, we know the name of the Lord, we know the address of the Lord, we know activities of the Lord, we know everything about the Lord, right? So that is why, since we know the address, we can show the route also. We can give the route, how to get to the Lord's abode, right? So Lord is not some, Bhagavan is not some vague thing. It's not some vague energy or some light or some power. Of course, he's the source of all power, right? Everything is under his control. So Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, which is Bhagavata Purana, which is one of the 18 important Puranas, in that major Purana. So in that, there is a verse which says, Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yadgnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdyate. So Vadanti tat tattva, that parama tattva, that supreme truth, he is known in 3 phases. It is called Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Right? Typically in South India, you would have heard this word Paramatma. Lot. I mean, if you're South Indian, you would have heard the word Paramatma. Brahman also is common. Bhagavan, though common, not very commonly used. Right? So Bhagavatam is speaking about Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavan iti shabdyate. Now, what is this Brahman? Okay, Brahman is okay. So before that, let me introduce creation a little bit. So we know who is Brahma, right? If we ask who is Brahma, Brahma is not actually the creator, though, when we were small, we were told Brahma is the creator. Brahma is the engineer, okay? Which means that all the raw materials were given to him and he went ahead to create from the raw material, right? So he's an engineer, like you have engineer goes and constructs. So he has all the raw materials, he goes and constructs a building. So like that, Brahma is an engineer. Now I'm going to show something to you. Okay, you might not have seen this before. Let me share. Okay, so I hope you can see this. So this is actually a glimpse of our universe. Okay, a glimpse of our universe. I don't know if you can see clearly. Can you see clearly here? Can you see Satyaloka? Can you read this?
Yes, bro. Bro, can just maximize it?
No, this is in.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Let me see. Maybe I can do full screen.
No, it's okay, Prabhu.
You maximize the tab.
Which one? This one?
Yeah.
Actually, I
Chrome
can-
tab.
one second. Is this better?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, so
Satyaloka.
here you can see actually here in the bottom there is Vishnu who's sleeping. You know that Vishnu is sleeps on his snake. That snake is called Anantashesha. Okay, now from the navel of Vishnu there is one lotus stem. This lotus stem, then there is a lotus flower, and then on top of the lotus flower is Brahmaji. Okay, Brahma, we know of having 4 heads. Now in Bhagavatam we will understand saying that and of course other scriptures, Brahma having 4 heads is just one Brahma. Now you see, this is one universe, okay, as we know it. This is one universe. Okay, now there are other universes. So if you see here where my pointer, my mouse is, this is another universe, this is another universe, this is another universe. So like this there are innumerable universes that get created. Okay, we'll talk about this creation in detail later, but this is Brahma. Now when Brahma appears, Brahma is given all the ingredients. So he has all this earth, water, fire, air, ether, all of this is available for Brahma to do the engineering work, right? So then what he does, he creates this 14 planetary systems. Okay, so this is called Satyaloka, Tapoloka, Janaloka, Maharloka, Swargaloka, Bhuvarloka, Bhuloka. Now in South India, at least those you might have heard of Bhur Bhuva Swaha, right? Gayatri mantra, Bhur Bhuva Swaha. So this is Bhur is earth, Bhuvar Swar, Bhur Bhuva Swaha. These are 3 planetary systems right here, which are in 5, 6, 7. Then these are upper planetary systems. Then there are lower planetary systems. This is Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, Patala, and then there is also what we call as Naraka, hell. Okay, and this Naraka has 28 different types of hells. Okay, so for all the different sinful activities we do, and this Naraka is mainly for human beings only, because animals don't have any concept of sins. Okay, going over the rules of material nature is done only by the intelligent human beings. Those intelligent human beings which use their intelligence to break the laws of nature, they go to the hells to get punishment, right? So this is Bhur Loka. This is where what we call as earth. Now another session sometime I will take you through what is called as Vedic cosmology. Okay, Vedic cosmology actually is beautiful. It talks about what we know as universe, as per our school and college and geography and all that, is a very tiny part of what is out there, right? And we will read that. That is called Vedic cosmology. So here this Brahma, he is the engineer. Okay, now this engineer, he is the first living entity in this universe. He is the first jiva. Okay, Brahma is also a jiva, and jiva means there is birth and death. Okay, Brahma also lives for 100 years, but his time is very different from our time, right? As in the span of his time is very different from our time span. Okay, but he lives for 100 Brahma's years. Okay, and we live for 100 earthly years. I mean, that is expect. By the way, that is also another information. So in Satyuga, people used to live for 1 lakh years. Then Treta Yuga 10,000 years. Dwapar Yuga 1,000 years, and in Kali Yuga the expected, typically average lifespan is supposed to be 100 years, right? But it's already, I think, deteriorating. And Bhagavatam says that there will be a time when it will become 50, right? That will be the maximum lifespan, because everything will deteriorate around us. So anyway, so this is the Brahma. He created everything, and he knows who he knows. I mean, because he's the first living entity. He is now glorifying his father. His father is Narayana, who's sleeping here, right? From his navel, Brahma is born. So Narayana is Brahma's father. Now Brahma is describing now Narayana, Vishnu. He is describing. So he has written a book called Brahma Samhita. Okay, it's a scripture called Brahma Samhita, in which he is now describing Krishna's position. Okay, so he says, Ishwara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. Ishwara Parama Krishna. He is the Parama Ishvara. So everybody is Ishvara. Ishvara means controller, right? Like we are also trying to control, but our span of control is very small. Maybe our house, maybe sometimes not even that, right? So we are trying to control small pieces of things, right? But he is the Parama Ishvara. He is the control of everything, not just this material creation, but the spiritual creation also. He is the Parama Ishvara. So he's saying Ishvara Parama Krishna. Who is that Parama Ishvara? Ishvara Parama, his name is Krishna. Then he's describing Krishna. Satchidananda Vigraha. What is his form? Vigraha means form. What is his form? Sat Chit Ananda. Sat means eternal. Chit means full of knowledge. Ananda is full of bliss. So Krishna is Sat Chit Ananda. Krishna is full of knowledge, is eternal and is full of bliss. Because he is full of bliss, we are also seeking for bliss. We are also seeking happiness because we are part and parcel of Krishna, right? So we have all the qualities that are there in Krishna, but in very minute quantities, very negligent amount of quantity we have, right? So he's saying Satchidananda Vigraha, Anadi, he's there from like long time. Adi, and there is nobody before him, right? Or there is nobody above him. Adir Govinda, his name is Govinda, and he is Sarva Karana Karanam. He is the cause of all causes. In Sanskrit we also say Tena Vina Trinamapi Na Chalati. Without his sanction, not even a blade of grass will move, right? So he is Sarva Karana Karanam. Everything that happens, known, unknown, everything, he is the Sarva Karana Karanam. And Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So Brahma is saying he is the Adi Purusha, he is the first Purusha. So we should understand Purusha means person. So Krishna is a person. Tamaham Bhajami. Brahma is saying, I am offering my obeisances, my prayers to you, my pranams to you. So Brahma here is saying Govindam Adi Purusham. So this is the first thing we have to understand, saying that Krishna is a Purusha. Krishna is not a Shakti. Shakti comes from Purusha. Energy comes from a person. Person doesn't come out of energy, isn't it? This is normal common sense, right? So if suppose a fan has to, you want to put on a fan. Now a person has to go and put on the switch. Only then the fan will start running, right? So person is required. So for this whole creation, some people say, we heard of this Big Bang theory, right? What is Big Bang theory? Anybody can say? Not people who have already heard it. Some of the new people who are hearing it for the first time. Can you try? Those who have, we all studied Big Bang theory in school, college, etc. Right? What is Big Bang theory? Ajay, Janani, Dhruvi, Padma Mataji, Mataji. Any of you who have not Srija Mataji? Any of you who have not Ravindra Prabhu? Yeah, Padma Mataji. What is Big Bang theory?
No, I'm not aware.
You're not aware. Okay. Anybody is aware Big Bang? How did the creation happen according to whatever we learned in school, college? Anybody remembers?
Massive explosion, I think.
Massive explosion. Massive. This is called Big Bang theory.
Correct.
Big Bang theory. What is Big Bang theory? That there was one huge
Meteorite.
atom bomb, right?
Meteorite or the atom bomb?
Yeah, I'm just saying, like some big explosion happened, right? And that big explosion happened, and then they say because of that explosion, this whole beautiful universe got created, right? Now you can see the tree behind me, right? The tree got created. Then all those, beautiful Himalayas got created. We do weekend getaway, right? So we get away to what kind of place? Do we go to a city where there is pollution and traffic and all that? No, we go to a place which is beautiful, serene. So all this beautiful creation just happened out of a big explosion. Okay, we don't want such a big creation. Okay, I want to just build a small house. Okay, I have a site. What do? We go call an engineer, architect, spend so much of money. Why all this? Let's take one. Okay, so for this whole creation, which is so huge, one big explosion was required. Right now, we'll do one thing. We have a very small, say 30, 40 sites. Now, small explosion is enough, right? So I'm going to put some explosives into that plot and then cover it up and then light it. And then what should happen? Oh, this beautiful, the way I thought about, you know, the house, it should be like this, like that, this color, that color, everything should come out of it. Does that make sense? Right? Out of some random explosion, some beautiful creation came out, right? Which we, and with so resourceful, so much full of utility, and so, how is it possible? Right? So, you know, this science, they actually, you know, this is another topic by itself, right? Science means actually there should be some proof. There is no proof for any of this. This is itself another topic, right? For example, Darwinism. And this is, you know, I'm slightly diverting, but so Darwinism. So let me introduce Darwinism. Darwinism. All of us have heard Darwinism, right? What is Darwinism?
Survival of the fittest.
And of course, then the survival of the fittest. So he said, so Narari Prabhu, don't get me wrong. Okay, I'm introducing Darwinism to you. So I say, okay, Narari Prabhu, your name is Narari. Now I ask you, what is your father's name?
Father Sitaram.
Sitaram. Okay, so then I will ask Sitaram Prabhu's father's name. Then I'll go on like that. After some time, so all of them are, you'll say, okay, this person, he lived here, he lived there. Then suddenly after some time, I will say, you know, your 100th grandfather was a monkey. How will you feel? Random.
It's correct. I think we are all Homo sapiens.
No, but why suddenly your 100th, one particular grandfather was a monkey? How suddenly, you know, he changed to a human being? Right? As in, see, this actually Darwin, very interestingly, you please read. Okay, there's a book written by one of the devotees about Darwin theory. Actually, Darwin in his in that book, right? What is that? Survival of the what is that? What is the name of the book? Huh?
Natural selection?
No, I can't remember the name. What a famous book, yeah, Darwin. Whatever, he wrote one big book for the survival of the fittest. I don't know what it's called. Anyway, in that preface, or whatever I am presenting here, is what I think it is, right? As in, he's then put it together, right? Now, but Patil Prabhu, I'm again muting you because there's disturbance. My internet is also unstable. Okay, so basically the whole creation came about. So we should understand that is why we should read the Shastra, right? Shastra is clearly saying that, you know, Brahma created the universe, right? Actually, all these there are 84 lakh species, all of them existing, right? I mean, even today the monkeys are there. Even we somewhere, right? But their numbers have reduced. Now, like this, so Brahma actually, he was the creation, and he said, you know, he is Krishna is the Purusha. He's the Purusha, and from Krishna is coming the energy of Krishna. That energy of Krishna is called Brahman. Okay, it is the energy of Krishna. It is called Brahman, and then Brahman, and there is also one expansion of Krishna, which is present in all our hearts. Okay, he's called Paramatma. Bhagavad Gita discusses this. Who is Paramatma? What is the role of Paramatma? It discusses all that. Right. So Bhagavatam is saying that there is Brahman, there is Paramatma, and then there is Bhagavan. Now, who is Bhagavan? How do you define Bhagavan? Again, Parashara Muni, who is the father of Vyasadeva, he says, Aishwaryasya Samagrasya Viryasya Yashasya Shriyaha Gnana Vairagyayoschaiva Shannam Bhagavatingana. He's saying Aishwarya, one who has all opulences, Virya, who has all valor, Aishwaryasya Samagrasya Viryasya Yashas, one who is famous or successful, Shriyaha, beautiful, Gnana, knowledge, and Vairagya, all of them to the maximum extent, he is called Bhagavan. So, for example, in this material world, there is somebody who has some money, then there is somebody else who has more money than him. Nobody can really say, I have all the money. Somebody can say, I have more money than anybody else, but nobody can say, I have all the money, right? So, this Bhagavan is one who has all the money, but at the same time, he is completely renounced, which means that he is ready to give it up like a drop of a hat. So we should understand, right? We might have money, but we are attached to our money. But Krishna is such that he has all the money, but he is not attached to any of it, and he is full of knowledge. So these 6 qualities, if they are present in anybody in full, right, maximum, nobody can excel him, that person is called Bhagavan. And here Brahma is introducing, saying that who is that Bhagavan? That Bhagavan is Krishna, right? So because Krishna is speaking here and Sanjaya is calling him Bhagavan, because Sanjaya is also self-realized soul, right? Then all the previous, great munis like Parashara Muni, Vyasadeva, Brahma, all of them, they are introducing this personality whom we don't know. We don't know this personality called Krishna. And they're introducing, saying that, hey, you know what? He is Bhagavan. He is the Paramayeshwara. So we should understand, we should accept as per, see, there are 2 ways of gaining knowledge. One is called Aroha Pantha, the other is Avaroha Pantha. So one simple way to understand this, suppose, say you want to know who your father is, right? What will we do if you want to know who our father is? Whom will we go and ask? Logically, we will go and ask our mother, saying that, mother, is this our father? Right? Now, suppose I say, no, I don't want to take my mother's word, right? Mother will tell the truth, but if you say, no, I am over smart, okay, now what I'm going to do? I'm going to do DNA test to determine who my father is, right? Now, when that source of information is coming from an authorized source, which is the mother, saying that this is a person, if you say, no, I'm going to experiment, right? That's a waste of time, right? So similarly, this Veda is called mother. Veda is called mother, right? And Krishna or Vishnu is the father. He's the Krishna is the, he says, Aham Bija Pradapita. I am the seed giving father, right? And Vedas are the mother. So whatever information is there in the Vedas, we have to accept, right? And this information actually passes down through parampara, through Guru Shishya parampara, right? It is called disciplic succession. So because that knowledge has to, it cannot be experimented. We can experiment, but it's going to waste a lot of time, and we're going to waste a lot of lifetimes, and there is no guarantee we will even reach the final conclusion, right? So this acharyas, the great Rishi Munis, they are introducing Krishna as Bhagavan, right? And Krishna is Bhagavan. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, right? Krishna is the original Bhagavan, right? He is himself the Bhagavan. So this we have to understand. See, because if Krishna is just some ordinary person, why do we want to read Bhagavad Gita? I mean, so many people have given so many gyan, as we call it, right? But then there is no value. I mean, it's as good as than any other book, right? Somebody says, I will accept, somebody says, I will reject. But this is given by the Parama Purusha, hence we have to accept it, because he is the supreme authority. Like, in the 6 opulences, there is one Gnana. He is the source of all Gnana. And he's given a glimpse or a drop of that Gnana in Bhagavad Gita. But this drop of Gnana is actually considered as the summary. It is considered as the summary of all Vedas. Because Krishna himself has picked and chosen the core teachings of the Vedas and given in Bhagavad Gita. Because actually, if you go to Vedas have over 1 billion verses. Okay, in this billion verses, actually, Vedas are for everybody. So it will tell you left, it will also tell you right, it will say straight, it will say even go back, right? For the same question, you will get 4 answers or 40 answers, right? So it's very difficult. It takes a lot of time, and unfortunately, in 100 years, we can't do much of this. Previously in Satyuga, people used to read Vedas because there was 1 lakh years for you to read and realize, come to the conclusion. But Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Vedeshcha sarver ahameva vedyaha. He's saying, in all the Veda, what is to be known is me, ahameva vedya. You have to know me, Krishna, right? So Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, as Prabhupada called it, because God was an incomplete term to describe Krishna. So Prabhupada coined this word called supreme personality of Godhead for Bhagavan, right? So here Bhagavan is telling Arjuna, saying, why are you talking like this, right? So we should understand, he is the supreme person. He is not approving of Arjuna's compassion. Arjuna is standing there and crying, literally saying that I am not going to fight, I'm not going to fight. And Krishna starts off saying that, why are you acting like this? And then he goes on to explain his rationale for asking that kind of a question to Arjuna, right? So right? And so Krishna did not approve. So the other thing Prabhupada is saying in the purport, very beautiful sentence: persons led by material conception of life don't know that the aim of life is self-realization, and they're captivated by the external features of material world. See, all of us, we are captivated by this material world, right? We say, oh, this is so nice, I want to go here, I want to go there. But actually, if you see, I mean, it's the same, right? If somebody has gone to Europe once, they've, I mean, pretty much gone to any beautiful country in the world, right? Because it's all beautiful and we've seen all of it in one place, right? But so, and we are enamored. So, somebody goes to Dubai and says, oh, such beautiful skyscrapers. Somebody goes to Europe, says such beautiful. No, we are enamored by this world. Now, if you are enamored by the world, why do we want to have to be enamored by the world? See, it is created by the greatest creator, Lord Krishna. So it has to be beautiful. There is no doubt about it, right? Now, there is no need for us to get entangled only in this. If you are entangled in this material, in the glamour of this material world, we will never think beyond it. We are satisfied, we are happy with this material world and whatever comes with it, right? And we ignore all the problems as saying, this is what life is, and don't really bother to question. And we just enjoying and involved in sense gratification, but we never ask the real questions. Our questions are, when am I going to go to this place? When am I going to shop this? When am I going to, it's all just because we can't go beyond this material world, right? We are so attracted by this material world. But we have to, if only that attraction comes down, only then we can ask other questions, right? Which is why, in some sense, I think Corona helped a lot of people, because Corona actually brought realism, right? Like, people were in this illusion saying that everything will be okay, hunky dory. Corona, shook up people, saying that, what? I mean, you thought everything is going to be always okay. Now, then at least some people would have come saying that, okay, what is this? Why is this happening? How did this happen to our beautiful world? Etc. Etc. Right? So this is very important. Actually, Bhagavad Gita is a shake-up. It's a wake-up call, right? It says, wake up and please think about the eternal beyond this temporary, right? We are enamored by the temporary, but we have to think, we have to question about the eternal, right? And only then we can actually derive meaning in this material life. Otherwise, we'll just keep jumping from, one potential source of happiness to another, and just enamored by the world around us. Right? So Arjuna was, though he was not enamored, but he was bound. He was stuck on the material platform. He was stuck by these relationships, right? And Krishna starts answering him, saying that you don't seem to understand how to look at relationship. You don't really understand what these material relationships are. Who are these people, right? And then he starts referencing to the Atma within the human body, right? And then, he goes on to speak, maybe one more verse I can cover. Yeah, one more verse I'll cover. So then this is the second verse of the second chapter, which is introducing Krishna, and Krishna asking Arjuna why he's acting like that. The third verse says, Klaibyam masmakam apartha naitat payupapadyate kshudram hridaya daurbalyam tekto tishtapantapa. He's saying, oh son of Prutha, do not yield to this degrading impotence. It does not become you. Give up such petty weakness of heart and arise. So literally he's like, scolding Arjuna, saying, why have you, this is petty. This weakness of heart is petty, as in it doesn't have any value, right? You just need to understand, saying that what you're doing is wrong. Just give up this petty weakness of heart. Arise and fight, right? Don't just sit, hand on hand and just say that, no, this is my relatives, I can't fight. How can I do that? Think beyond that. Get out of your illusion. And this is the wake up call, right? So whatever is happening to Arjuna is required for all of us, right? We have to wake up. Many a times, we just, because we are so stuck with this, material world around us, we don't tend to question anything beyond that, right? And we are happy with whatever is there around us. And then Arjuna starts answering. Maybe I'll go this also. Arjuna vacha katham bhishmam aham sankhye dronam cha madhusudana ishu viprati yotsami puja ravari sudana. Arjuna then replies to Krishna's word, why are you acting like this? He says, oh, killer of enemies. Okay, you kill all your enemies. You're also killer of Madhu. There was one Asura, there's one demon by name Madhu. You killed him also. But how do you expect me to attack worshipable people? like Bhishma and Drona, they are not my enemies. So Arjuna is asking a counter question, saying that Krishna, you didn't kill your guru, you didn't kill your relatives. I am here and I need to kill my gurus and relatives and superiors, everybody. How am I supposed to do that? How can I do that, right? I can't do that, right? In answer to Krishna's question. And then he says, Gurun hatva hi mahanubhavan shreyo bhoktum vaiksham api haloke hatvartha kamamstu gurunihaiva bhunjiya bhogan rudira pradiktan. He says it would be better to live in this world by begging than to live at the cost of the lives of great souls who are my teachers. Even though desiring worldly gain, they are superiors. If they are killed, everything we enjoy will be tainted with blood. So Arjuna is again still substantiating his position, saying that, you didn't kill your relatives. I am supposed to kill great souls, my teachers, my superiors. Why would I desire any worldly gain by killing these superiors? Even if they are desiring worldly gain, it's okay, right? But if they are killed, then whatever I'm going to enjoy will be tainted with their blood. So he's saying, I'm not interested in this, right? This is not some ordinary enemies, right? They are all my relatives. And then Arjuna comes to his end of his logic. He comes to the end of his logic. He says, Nachaitat vidma kataram no gariyo yadvajayema yadiva no jayeyu yaneva hatva na jijibhishamasteva stita pramukhe dhartarashtraha. Nor do we know which is better. Now Arjuna is coming to his real position, saying, I don't know which is better. Should I conquer them or should I be conquered by them? If we killed the sons of Dhritarashtra, we should not care to live, yet they are now standing before us on the battlefield. So he's saying, how can we just kill Dhritarashtra's sons and just continue to live? We can't do that. So I don't know. I mean, you are asking me to kill, but I can't live. I cannot care to live if I kill those sons. So I don't know whether should I be conquered by them or should I conquer them. I am not very sure what is right for me. What should I do? So this is where so Arjuna, though he was very powerful, he was one of the most powerful Kshatriyas of his time, right? I mean, let's look at there is no conversation about Duryodhana saying any of this, right? He was also a fighter. He didn't have any compassion towards anybody. He didn't have any of these questions coming, saying that why should I kill my relatives? He was enthusiastic for the battle, right? This is the difference between the virtuous and the non-virtuous, right? So Arjuna was virtuous, right? And that is why actually Krishna subsequently says in Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvida badante mam artho artharthi jignasu gnani. He says 4 types of people who are pious people, virtuous people will come to me, right? So Arjuna is one of them. He's an eternal devotee of Krishna, but he's put into one of those positions, 4 positions, artho artharthi. He was in distress and he surrendered to Krishna, right? So we will talk about this more in the next session. So his indecision finally, and basically his final indecision, saying that I can't fight. He's saying I'm confused. I don't know what needs to be done, whether I should fight, not fight, and he stops. Right. The next verse is when he surrenders to Krishna, and then Krishna starts his Upadesha, his Bhagavad Gita. Okay. So I will stop here. If anybody has any questions, comments, please feel free. Right, Krishna.